I'd like to get back to my roots today with the unscripted, impromptu reviews because I actually managed to watch something that put me in that mood. Something that I thought was so well written, so enjoyable, so entertaining, and yet so disappointing in its ending because they're not going to continue this on.
What the hell, Luke?
That I just had to come up here and I had to talk about it without even giving it much more thought. Also, to note, apparently a lot of people dislike this show.
What the?
And the whole reason that it got canceled and didn't make it through a second season is Netflix actually said that the view count basically just kept going down and down the further through the season you went. And I do not understand why. Because me and Audrey absolutely loved Everything Sucks. I genuinely thought this was one of the best pilots I've ever seen. I was entertained almost non-stop. Even though we didn't go into it with a whole lot of background knowledge on who was who, you just get thrust into the situation with all these different characters. I got drawn up in it. Part of the reason is the kid who played Luke. I thought this kid had real charisma. I thought he was a great actor, especially in some of the later scenes when he recreated that music video for Kate. The boy had moves, okay? He had charisma, he had charm, he had everything. The thing that I like the most about it is, and don't get me wrong when I say this, I'm not saying this show is as good as Freaks and Geeks, because clearly that's blasphemy.
Hey, come on. I didn't mean nothing. I'm just trying to spice up the conversation.
But, to me, watching this show must, I would think, feel like what it was like to have grown up in the 70s and you watch that 70s show, or you watch Freaks and Geeks, like I said, because I'm a child of the 90s. And I don't know what it is. It's not just things like, oh, they have VHS tapes in here. Oh, there's posters on the wall of 90s shit. It's not just that. Because it doesn't feel like they just threw random ass references all over the place to make it a 90s show. One scene specifically that caught me in the third episode of it. It's not even that big of a deal, but one of these nerdy girls is talking or whatever and getting all worked up about something.
I walked into confession and I saw him getting a hand job.
And you hear a sound all of a sudden.
From Leah Kagan, and she doesn't even go to our camp.
And then she pulls out her little Tamagotchi, clicks around and feeds her animal, and just puts it back away.
That sucks.
Yeah, I was in love with him.
You know, they had to specifically write it in the script. In the middle of her line of dialogue, her Tamagotchi goes off, she pulls it out, she feeds it, she puts it back up. So that you as a viewer might hear that sound and immediately be like, oh shit, that's a Tamagotchi. Or you might hear it and be like, wait a minute, I remember that. Either way, they didn't just, oh, it's time to feed my Tamagotchi and pull it out. Oh, it's a 90s reference. They all felt legitimately like I was watching a show shot in the 90s. I loved it. As I said earlier, the pilot to this was one of the best pilots I've ever seen. I immediately loved the principal. And this is before you know that he's Kate's dad, because when the kid, even the kids on the morning announcements, the guy who played, I think his name was Scott Pocket.
Good morning, VHS. I'm Jessica Betts.
I'm Scott Pocket.
Scott Pocket.
That shit shouldn't even be funny, but it's funny to me.
Scott Pocket.
Anyway, when he comes on in the first episode, in the pilot,
that's right. Principal Messner here.
I could tell already that this principal, he was the perfect cast because he had that element of believability about him where he really is trying to get to know these kids, trying to talk to them, try to understand them, and make a connection with them.
Wishing you a happy Friday, and thanking you for a spirit-filled first week back at school.
And he's not entirely cringy or entirely lame at it, but when you're their age, any level of that is cringy and lame. And of course, his own daughter has trouble.
Can you not talk to me while I'm at school? Like, pretend I'm any other student. Like I don't exist.
Which you can see kind of crushes him because we find out in this that her mom died, and you find out a little later on how she died and how relevant that is to the plot and how it ties into Luke's story and her dad and Luke's mom. Now, if you haven't seen it, I'm jumping all over the place, I understand that, then go watch it. Before I got off track there, what I was specifically talking about is the relationship that forms between Luke's mother and Kate's dad. Luke falls for Kate in pretty much the first episode as soon as he meets her, this girl in AV Club.
In world news, President Clinton has signed the Defense of Marriage Act.
Him and his nerdy friends, which by the way I didn't talk about them, but his little two nerdy friends, McQuaid.
Winning the lottery and dying the next day, the subject is 98 years old. There's nothing ironic about dying at 98.
And Tyler.
My cousin Rory says everyone has sex in high school. Even nerds, like, with each other.
McQuaid is like the Harrison in Freaks and Geeks, you know? And Tyler is like Beavis.
Part of my bunghole.
We chain watched every bit of it. There's only 10 episodes, okay? And they're 20 minutes long apiece. Recently, we've been binge watching 40-minute long things, you know? So it was a breath of fresh air to have a story delivered in that sort of format again and never feel like it went too slow or it went too fast or it was leaving out something pivotal. It was leaving on just the right amount of, we'll call them cliffhangers, but they weren't really that large of plot holes or things that you need to resolve by the next episode. But I think I've still meandered off topic with it here. The relationship between Luke's mother and Kate's dad. You really can believe in it.
I want you to know that for the first time in 10 years, I feel happy.
You can see the struggle.
I'm ready to fight for my happiness. What we have is good. The kids can be part of that.
Both of these people have lost their significant other. So Kate's mom has passed away, and Luke's dad has ran out on them a long time ago. And there's a subplot in it as well where Luke discovers some VHS tapes under his bed, and apparently it's like a little series of, we'll call them vlogs, even though this word didn't exist then, that his dad shot, just talking to the camera.
Some people, they might say that's a bad date. But for me, it doesn't get any better.
And so even though Luke hates his dad at first, and, you know, hates what he did to his mom, doesn't want anything to do with him.
What's he do now? Oh, my dad? Who cares?
Throughout the show, as he's investigating these tapes.
What's on these?
Oh, I don't know. I think they were my dad's. I've been meaning to check them out.
He starts to see his dad for who he was.
Same speeches, same cake, same chicken dance.
He actually starts to laugh. He starts to cry. He starts to feel things along with his relationship with Kate that is up and down. And that's something I haven't even touched on.
What the hell?
Luke?
Kate is a lesbian, apparently.
You look hot. No, I don't. Yes, you do. I'd bone ya.
And I kind of liked that she has a relationship with Luke. Luke's confidence. That was another thing that I liked about that kid. Even though it's written and he's not a real person, I loved that he was able to show how even the weakling, the small kid, the non-popular one, all you got to do is try. You just got to have that courage. He went for it. And McQuaid and Tyler, they both thought he was crazy, but did he care? No, he just kept on going for it. And even though he didn't win the girl in the end, he helped her figure out who she was and still wanted to remain friends with her after that. I mean, that's a good angle. That's a lot of character development and a lot of shit to pack into such a short amount of time. When you find out how Kate's mom died.
When she drove out here. To this bridge.
How she's been resenting or holding all that in this whole time. She's the girl who didn't have a mom, so nobody wanted to talk to her. She's been alone this entire time. Luke gets involved with her. He helps her discover, even if not like the way he wanted to, who and what she really is, when she takes him to the bridge and reveals to him.
And she stopped her car in the middle of the road.
I'm skipping around again, I know, man. This is the problem with unscripted stuff. So if you've seen it, you know that Luke comes home early from filming a movie with the class, and he discovers it couldn't be any more embarrassing and humiliating. And he basically flips out and yells at him to get out of the house.
I care about your mom very much.
Don't care! Get out of my house!
Luke!
Hey!
There's also this element between Luke's mom and him. Like, he's a principal, you know, and of course he's a father as well. So they both seem to kind of have their...
You don't speak to an adult that way. When an adult is speaking, you politely listen until they're done.
Own ideas on how situations like this should be handled. There's a fire alarm getting pulled where Luke covers for Kate.
I just assume he's grounded. If Kate had done what he did, he'd be grounded for a month, maybe 2.
He thinks that Luke did it. Luke's mom knows that Kate did it.
You're a disciplinarian.
I don't like being the bad guy, but sometimes that's the job.
It's these kind of interactions. You see two real human beings who are attempting to get to know one another, who are utterly lonely, and they still manage to not clash over these ideas and concepts, such as how to raise your child or whatever.
You stole weed from a student?
Confiscated.
The mom and that principal were such...
That felt like a lot.
That was a good one.
So great together with their chemistry, and you really feel their sadness. You really feel how alone they are.
We deserve to be happy, Sherry. All of us.
You cheer for them. You root for them. You want to see them get together, whereas in a lot of shows like this, you're like, this is just throwaway romance. That was one of the most real parts of this show.
I feel happy. Actually happy. With you.
I guess what I really want to say is how disappointed I am that it didn't do that well, because they leave you with the damn cliffhanger. At one point in the show, Luke goes all the way to wherever, California, I don't know where the fuck ever, who cares? He goes to where his dad works, because Kate managed to track him down as like a favor, as a surprise, basically, and you know how these things always backfire. So he basically sees his dad for the first time in however many years.
Hey, little man. You, need some help?
His dad doesn't recognize him.
Are you looking for something in particular?
He realizes that this isn't where he's supposed to be. He's here for all the wrong reasons. So he just runs off, gets back in the school bus. That's another story. I'm not going to worry about it. And they drive off. His dad does look out the window, sees it drive off. Recognizes the town name on it, and then he suddenly has that realization, oh my god, I wonder if that was my son. So they even have that element of it, getting you interested and getting you guessing about it. All the way at the very end, last fucking episode, the family's all back together, everybody's happy, Luke and Kate are now friends. God damn it, if they'd have just ended this show right there, I'd have been completely fine and been like, yeah, that was fucking amazing. But they had to have the dad roll up on his motorcycle and knock on the fucking door and then go. And that's it. Netflix canceled the fucking show. It's probably not going to come back. And it just really makes me sad, man. I fucking loved this show. I loved it. I loved it, I loved it, I loved it. And it's not just because it's all filled with 90s references and I can relate to it so much. I genuinely enjoyed the characters, the interactions, the story, the plot. I mean, I'm an amateur filmmaker myself, so watching these kids play around with chroma keying.
Oh, yes. It worked. It worked. Hope the nights rejoice.
Filming out in the desert and doing makeup changes, and I just fucking loved it. I loved every minute of it, and I just felt like somebody needed to take up for this show. But for those of you who haven't seen it and are thinking, yeah, I don't want to watch that because everybody says it sucks. No, I'm telling you, watch it and then come to your own decision about it, okay? Because I would not have thought that it was going to be as enjoyable as it was, like so many other things that I watched. But when Audrey put this on, 10 minutes in, I was just all smiles, and I'm so glad I watched it, but I'm also so sad that they're never going to bring it back. So